Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with Charlie State and Naga Manchetti.
Our headlines today. A furious backlash from the travel industry as the government axes Portugal from the green list in a bitter blow for holidaymakers.
It's just going to put people off travel, and that's very damaging for the travel industry.
We just literally missed the cut-off to change our flight. We have to do it within 2 hours, so we can't even get the money back.
So is our big summer getaway cancelled or just delayed? I get reaction from the bosses of EasyJet and Ryanair and ask what happens if you've already booked your trip.
Crowds of up to 10,000 will be allowed at organised outdoor events in Wales from Monday. It's the latest easing of COVID restrictions.
Good morning. Bad news for England fans just 1 week away from the European Championships. Defender Trent Alexander-Arnold is ruled out of the tournament after injuring his thigh in England's friendly against Austria.
Honouring the British heroes of D-Day, the final preparations are made to a new Normandy memorial ahead of its opening this weekend.
And we are on the cusp of a fine weather weekend with some warm sunny spells. That's after some rain today in southeast England. I've got your Friday and weekend forecast on the way.
Good morning. It's Friday the 4th of June. Portugal has questioned the UK's decision to remove it from the travel green list from next Tuesday, saying it couldn't understand the logic of the move.
Travel companies have said the announcement was a devastating blow for the industry. UK holidaymakers already in Portugal will now have to quarantine for 10 days if they return home after the new rules come into effect. Our business correspondent, Katie Austin, has this report.
Since the 17th of May, trips to Portugal have had the green light, with no quarantine when you get back. But from Tuesday, that will change.
Well, it's just going to put people off travel, and that's very damaging for the travel industry. Either we believe in the vaccines or we don't.
We just literally missed the cut-off to change our flight. We have to do it within 2 hours, so we can't even get the money back. But anyway.
No new countries were added to the existing green list yesterday. Portugal left that category and became amber, with the requirement to self-isolate at home for 10 days upon return. It's not illegal to travel to these places, but the government's told people not to go to them on holiday. 7 more countries were added to the highest risk red list. That means returning UK residents must pay to quarantine in an approved hotel. The government said designating Portugal as amber was necessary to avoid bringing variants of concern into the UK. The Portuguese Foreign Ministry said on Twitter they noted the decision but could not understand the logic.
Ban international travel completely, or just communicate properly with people. It's just, it's silly.
You have to have a system where either it's open or it's closed. There's families bringing out kids and there's people booked holidays for a long time. If it's closed, close it.
It's very frustrating because we came here because it's like, oh, we like Portugal green list, that's fine. So it's going to impact my work and stuff when I get back.
Airlines and holiday companies desperate for summer trade after the crippling effect of more than a year of COVID travel restrictions expressed bitter disappointment.
Last summer, we hit an all-time low and passenger numbers only got to about 25% of normal for a summer season. Unfortunately, we're now expecting this year to be worse. And, there's more than 1.5 million jobs that rely on aviation in the UK. And I'm afraid this makes it really difficult. Businesses simply cannot survive when they have no revenue.
The Transport Secretary said a cautious approach must be taken, but travel businesses are frustrated and many holidaymakers face a sudden change of plan.
This has been rebooked several times. We did a lot of looking into whether it was safe to travel and if we would have to quarantine on return. We're looking potentially at trying to fly back slightly earlier. There doesn't appear to be that many flights, unfortunately.
The next review of the traffic light system is expected in 3 weeks' time. Katie Austin, BBC News.
Our correspondent James Reynolds is at Gatwick Airport for us this morning. Morning, James. So there's a conundrum now, isn't there, for tourists if they had Portugal in their sights and tickets booked?
Yeah, and it also means that if they had those tickets booked and they still want to leave this morning, they've got to get back by Monday evening before that quarantine period sets in. And I can see some streams of people heading off. A lot of the flights scheduled this morning are actually to Greece and Malta. Those are for travellers who already knew that their countries were on the amber list, that when they got back to the UK after the holiday, they'd have to sit at home, take a number of tests over 10 days. But the travellers going to Portugal didn't necessarily know that. They might have to think about some of their plans. A couple of flights are scheduled for Portugal a little bit later on. Even Madeira is on the list as well. And just to remind you, that green list has now gone down from 12 countries to 11 countries and territories. But the problem is, for anyone travelling here, is that most of those countries and territories still don't want visitors. There are, in potential, you can get to Tristan da Cunha, St Helena, these transatlantic islands, but you won't be able to get to them from Gatwick. Essentially, Gibraltar might now be the only easy place for people to get to without quarantining on the way back.
OK, James, thanks very much. James Reynolds there.
Worth saying, we will be discussing this more with Government Minister Robert Jenrick. That's coming up at 7:30 this morning.
The variant of coronavirus, which was first identified in India, is now the dominant strain in the UK. This according to Public Health England.
Scientists say there are signs the variant, now known as Delta, may increase the risk of hospitalisation, but more data is needed to have more confidence in the findings. Sean Dilley has this report.
It's unwelcome news for a country trying to fight its way out of lockdown restrictions. But scientists say that while more evidence is needed, the Indian origin or Delta variant may be linked to higher risks of hospital admissions, and it is now the country's most dominant variant. The latest figures show that over 5,000 coronavirus cases were reported in the UK yesterday, the highest daily figure since March. Public Health England said there were nearly 12,500 cases of the Delta or Indian variant reported in the last week, but hospital admissions still remained low. In the last week, 94 people were admitted after attending A&E with the Delta variant. The majority had not been vaccinated.
Just wondering if you'd like to take some test kits?
In Lancashire, Blackburn with Darwin has the highest rate in England for all coronavirus cases.
I think we have more people 16 plus who are affected by this variant than anybody else. And I think I look at the figure in hospital, there are 26 people yesterday in hospital from all East Lancashire, and I think there are only one person 65.
Cases are still relatively localised, but the government will be watching closely to see if it spreads to other parts of the country as it considers ending restrictions in England later this month.
At the moment, it's looking good for June the 21st, but we're going to continue to make that assessment in the coming days and up to the 14th of June when a decision will be made.
New data suggests that people who've had the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine have lower antibody levels targeting the Indian variant than those against previous variants in the UK. Research from the Francis Crick Institute and the National Institute for Health Research say this provides additional evidence in support of plans to deliver a vaccination boost to vulnerable people in the autumn. In the meantime, government health advisors say the best way to protect against any variant is to reduce the spread of the virus as a whole. Sean Dilley, BBC News.
Up to 10,000 people will be allowed at outdoor events, including concerts and sports matches, from Monday. This is in Wales, as lockdown restrictions are further relaxed. Groups of 30 people will also be allowed to meet outdoors, including in private gardens. However, the Welsh Government said there was growing concern about the spread of the variant that was first identified in India.
More than 200 migrants were rescued while attempting to cross the English Channel yesterday, this according to official figures. 8 boats were intercepted by Border Force officials on Thursday. A spokesperson for the Home Office said smugglers were putting profits before people's lives through dangerous and unnecessary crossings. More than 3,500 people have been prevented from making the journey so far this year.
The American airline United is planning to bring back supersonic passenger travel for the first time since Concorde was taken out of service. That was in 2003. The airline says it will buy 15 aircraft with the aim to start passenger flights in 2029. The developers say the planes will be capable of flying at more than 1,000 miles an hour and could cut the flight time from London to New York in half.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.